Next, I have a comment. It's kind of nitpicking, but in the same way we've talked about appreciation versus being
Gratitude.
grateful, I think it would be so sweeter if we call it self-fullness or being self-full rather than selfish, just for me. And then I'd like to move on to my question. So I actually was going to come see you in San Diego, and the weirdest thing happened. I got home from work. I'm a physician. I work very long hours. In my free time, I have this beautiful project that I received before I even knew what chakras were, all of these. It was a very powerful soul-searching experience where my desire to find was way bigger than, there was a lot of resistance in the way I found things at the time. Now I would go at it much more smoother with what I know.
It's all right.
Totally all right. It's the most beautiful thing. It's the convergence of why I'm here in this time and space is now. And now this is a reality. There's just a magnificent project going on. I'm kind of going on a tangent, but so I got home that day. I was so tired I didn't get on the flight and go. My friends were like, well, you know, your hotel. And I was like, well, it's not the only hotel in the room. There's more hotels coming after that. Anyhow, that was perfect because the question I had has since evolved and what feels like concluded, although that's a false misinterpretation, I think concludes this week. And so instead of using my example, I think I'm going to frame the question on examples that Esther has given from her life. So it's about step 4.5 is how I call it. So
Step 1 is ask, you know about that. Step 2 is source answer. Step 3 is you got to get in the receiving mode. Step 4 is you're really good at being in the receiving mode. It's like mastery of the receiving mode. And step 5 is you're back in step 1 and you're not mad at yourself. You're embracing the value of contrast. So step 4.5 is you've already mastered it and contrast is showing itself to you. And
well, I feel like that's where I live step 4 to step 5, and I want to distinguish contrast, what I call C minor and C major. So there's minor contrast like rats eating your cable. And that is very easy to either get off the subject while things are happening. And, you know, in both cases, major contrast or minor contrast, I know everything's going to work out and all of that. But in something so minor, as opposed to something major, like, say, Jerry's transition, that's where I hit step 4.5, where even though I know things are going to be great and I know it's playing out and I know it's for the greater expansion, there's like this hit, this disturbance in the force, this sort of like pitfall, and like there's like this, I almost want to throw up even though I know all these things. So I guess I'm here to ask for a quick trick because getting off the subject feels like I'm just, like I know too much and I know I'm just trying to get off the subject.
There is a quick trick. It's not what you want it to be, but it is quick and it does work.
Kill myself?
That's quick.
And it
It
works.
does work. It's harsh. It's accepting that the work is in the preparation of the petri dish rather than in diving into whatever's gone on. And so it's accepting that if there has been momentum happening that you haven't been aware of, and so you haven't been able to diffuse your own resistance at earlier stages, so the momentum of the resistance was great enough that it took you someplace you really did not want to be, to just give in to it and not try to fix it through action, because there really isn't anything you can do with the action at that point. You just sort of have to relax into the discomfort of whatever it is, understanding that preparation of the receiving of what you want is the way to live your life. Not very satisfying, was it?
No, I completely agree. It's just that feeling. It's so bad.
Well, when that happens,
so
when that
awful.
bad feeling happens, some helpful words are, well, this is this. Here I am. It is what it is, and I am where I am, not I should be somewhere else. I am where I am, and the reason it's step 5 is I'm back in a step 1 moment, and I'm launching new rockets of desire, and this is the basis of evolution and expansion for me, and it's all right, and this too shall pass. just this week, it's interesting that you bring up the subject of Jerry and that you bring up the context of it in relationship to some things that are easier to take and adjust to and some things that aren't. Because just this last week on Thursday, Esther watched for the first time a video with Jerry in it. It was one of those things, in fact, that we were talking about earlier. Sometimes Esther will just not go to a place because she wants to stay in her place of feeling good, and so she doesn't go into territory where she thinks she might not. So she was doing something else online. It was sort of like looking for the rattle in the air conditioner when she found something that was more meaningful, and she found the interview that Peter did with Jerry and Esther and Abraham a while back. And Esther has not watched it since way back, and there it was. And instead of immediately turning away from it, she sat and watched the whole thing, devoured it and loved it and enjoyed it and laughed at it, and heard Jerry say to Peter as he looked right at him, Jerry saying, "I am fulfilled." And Esther thought, yeah, I get that now. I get that now, that you felt fulfilled with what you were about. And so some place that she thought she did not want to go may sound odd to you, but Esther has not been going there. It was a place that felt so good to her that she brought a lot of them and put them on the table out there and put a big sign on them. Meet, because a lot of you don't know Jerry, meet Jerry and Esther and Abraham in this wonderful interview that is the basis of everything going on in these rooms all of the time anyway, you see. So
Thursday around 2 p.m. Pacific time is where I would say my contrast came to a final resolution. That's pretty cool.
Really good. Really good.